start this right on time. How about that?
Well, 18 months apart.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock and it's time for this evening's city council meeting. And we usually start our meetings with a word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hawks, would you lead us in a word of prayer? And if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you do so.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for today, and we thank you for the opportunity to be here in this wonderful city that you have blessed us with. We pray that you be with us tonight, guide our decisions for this city and its future, Lord, and may all that we do be mindful of you and your Son, Jesus Christ. It's in his holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
Good to see you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hawks, thank you very much for leading us in prayer. And Ms. Hurd, if you'd call the roll.
Will do. Mr. Hawkins.
Here.
Mr. Grimes.
Here.
Mr. Spurgers.
Here.
Ms. Mel.
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter.
Here.
Mr. Hawks.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Isby.
Here.
Mr. Grimes.
Yes. Here again. Still here.
Very good.
Still here.
We have minutes of the April 22nd meeting that we need to review and get an approval motion on. And I
Motion
would
to approve.
accept that at this time.
Make a motion for approval. Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the minutes from the April 22nd meeting. All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 8-0. I did vote in the affirmative. I didn't, but I did now. As you can tell, Mayor Castleberry is not with us this evening. He will be back at our next council meeting. For those of you who don't know, I'm Andy Hawkins, and that's all I need to say about that. First item on the agenda is consideration to approve waiving all three readings for the ordinance on tonight's city council agenda, and I'll take a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second? Very good. We have a motion and second to waive the three readings for the ordinances on tonight's meeting. That will be 7 ordinances, I remember. I believe that's correct, and it is. All in favor of waiving the reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye, and that's an 8-0. Next item on the agenda is an ordinance to approve entering into an agreement with White
Mr.
Blood.
Hawkins?
Yes,
We need to do the financial report.
thank you very much.
Just
You're
hidden up
welcome very
above there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Winningham.
I mean, he is here. So,
Since he's here.
I would request that when short people are running the meeting, that you sit more to the side where I could see you.
I said hello to you.
I know, but you know, I don't remember everything that happens.
I knew your peers wouldn't let you get too far through the agenda before we got it up. So
With
good evening,
friends like
everybody.
this.
That's right. That's right. Good evening, folks. And I think we've got February and March on the agenda to approve. I was absent from the last meeting at my daughter's birthday party, so couldn't miss out on that.
Mm.
And it actually worked out okay because I was looking through February. There really was not a whole lot there to talk about. But in March, we've got some things to talk about. I think there's an old saying, you know, if something happens twice, it might be a coincidence. If it's 3 times, it could be a trend. We have ourselves a trend. Our sales tax has been down each month for the first 3 months of the year. It was down 9% in January, which we discussed. I think that was more of a correction, or as much of a correction than it was actually being down. But now that we've seen February and March also be down, February was down 1%, March was down 1.8, so close to 2. Now it looks like we're seeing a slowdown in town, in the city. In dollars, you know, the sales tax goes several different ways. It's not just all in the general fund. So in dollars, we're about 400,000 shy of where we were this time last year. and about 300 of that 400 is in the general fund. Excuse me. So to try to kind of figure out what's going on, I looked at the information that we get from the state, and I looked at about 17 different categories of businesses that report sales tax in the city. And for January, and keep in mind, these are for 2 months prior sales. So January was November sales, February, December, March was January. So for January, which was November sales, 12 out of those 17 categories were down, about 71%. In February, 10 of those categories were down, so about 59, 60%. And then in March, it was 8 out of 17. So that trend is at least getting better. There's fewer and fewer categories that are seeing this slowdown. Excuse me. The categories, we had some categories that were down all 3 months. Those were lumber wholesalers, electronics and appliance stores, grocery retailers, and hotels. So to me, that's a representation kind of the overall economy in Conway. We depend on hotels and travel for, our folks coming in with the A&P tax and coming to our ball tournaments. Granted, those are probably slow months for ball tournaments, so that's not necessarily breaking news that hotels would be down. But you look at lumber wholesalers, probably not a whole lot of building going on in those months either. Electronics and appliance stores was kind of surprising because you would hope those would be up for, holiday sales. And then grocery retailers, I was surprised to see that one be down 3 months in a row. We had 2 categories that were actually up every month, auto parts retailers and then restaurants. Now, restaurants gets kind of tricky because they've got 2 different categories, and I don't know what the difference is between the 2. There's restaurants and other eating, and then there's also a category called full service restaurants. Full service restaurants was actually down overall. So I think it was down in 1 month and then maybe up the next 2. But the down in the first month was enough. So for those 3 months, it was down, if that makes sense. I hope I explained that good enough. The other categories that were down over the course of those 3 months: household appliance wholesalers, building supplies dealers, and then sporting goods. So it looks to me like we've got an overall sort of plateau, maybe a slowdown in the economy in the city. This is just the first 3 months of the year, so we've got a lot left to go, and we'll see how that, see if it turns around. We don't yet have our number for April, but as soon as I get that, we'll share that information with everybody. You can see if you look at the general fund for March, it was a hard month. We show a net expense for the year of $2.2 million. Sales tax is a part of that. The biggest part of that is where in the expenditure section for the community center, you see for the month of March we spent just under $1.5 million. So now we've got bills coming in to finish up that facility, and those are going to be some pretty big bills that we pay. But that's nothing that we weren't expecting. We've got that money appropriated in the budget. And then another thing that kind of hurt in March, the fire department, they do just one annual payment each year on the fire trucks that we've got coming that we financed. And that's almost, almost $400,000 that payment cost, and that hit us in March. So those are the 2 primary things, along with a slowdown in the revenue to bring us to that net expense so far in the general fund. The other funds are not quite as affected so bad. Street fund does depend on some tax revenues, local and state. They're doing okay. That will kind of start to look a little bit worse as the year progresses because they've got their new facility that they're trying to outfit and get ready to move into. So we've got some expenses there. And then sanitation and airport, they operate off of the fees that they generate. They're not supported by any taxes. So they're weathering this, what seems to be a slowdown better than the other funds. Although the airport could see that, if the economy does, hit a slowdown, you could have few people, if you've got just casual flyers, they could elect to not go out and spend that money on fuel. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. But we're just going to keep an eye on it, monitor it as close as we can, and hopefully see a turnaround starting in April. But like I said, we'll keep everybody posted.
Tyler, I have one question about the payments in lieu of tax. It has a negative 200,000. I
That
don't know
one's
that I've
ki-
ever seen that before like that.
It's negative because we remitted that money to the county. So we collected it in '24. And then after the first of the year, when we knew everything that we had collected, we remit that to the county, and that just shows up as a negative number there.
Any other questions for Mr. Winningham? Mr. Winningham, as I look at the sales tax number, it does appear that we're at 25% of the budgeted number, so we're kind of right on target for it, even though we've had some down.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, we're about 300,000 shy of where we were this time last year. So you're probably talking, tenths of a percent when you're talking, $30 million. So yeah, percentage wise, we would expect to be at 25 at this point in the year, and that's where we are. So we're not that far off. We are down, but we're not that far
I
off.
wanted to bring that up for that reason.
Right.
And to point out the fact that we are at 25% of the anticipated receipts for an annual number through the first 3 months of this year, which is 25%. So,
Right.
And that, if I understand, that follows along with the philosophy of budget conservatively, and we've collected for greater than you budgeted in sales tax for years. So this isn't a drop into the negative; it's a slow in the growth or a decline in growth.
Correct.
Okay. And if you wave your magic wand, I assume we would attribute some of that to the same economic uncertainty that we're seeing nationally, and not something that's Conway specific.
I think so. There are other cities that they're still seeing some growth. I haven't really studied those cities to kind of figure out why that is, but that would be my guess.
any other questions? Any comments? I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the February and the March monthly financials.
Second?
We have a motion and second to approve the monthly financials for February and March. All in favor of that approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Count me as an aye, and that's 8-0.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
one more small
Sure.
correction. On our agenda, we approved minutes. It states April 22nd. Well, that's today.
Should have been April 8th.
Oh.
We should have approved the April 8th.
April 8th.
Thank you very much. Should be,
So I will make a motion to approve the April 8th minutes.
I'll second that.
we have a motion and second to approve minutes from the April 8th meeting rather than the April 22nd, which is obviously going on right now. Do we need to do something about that other one that we
This
passed?
motion would supersede
Okay,
because there are no April 22nd minutes.
thank you very much. So now, with a motion and a second for approval for the April 8th minutes, I'll take a motion for that.
Motion in a second.
We have it?
Motion
Have a
second.
motion.
Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Count me as an aye. Okay, we're off to a real rocky start.
Doing great.
Don't make it.
Okay, now we'll go where I wanted to go when y'all sidetracked me. And that is to consider waiving the 3 readings for the ordinances on tonight's agenda.
We did that.
We did that.
Like I said, we're off to a rocky start.
You're checking us.
I'm making sure y'all are listening. Next item is an ordinance authorizing execution of some documents related to the city's interest at the White Bluff Steam Electric Station. And Mr. Carroll, are you here? Yes, sir. Would you like to come up and tell us about this, please, sir? It's been a tough day, Mr. Carroll.
Yes, sir, I would. I'm hoping to smooth things out
I
for
hope you can help me.
Yeah. Well, as you guys know, the city of Conway has an ownership interest in two coal electric plants, White Bluff and Independence. You might recall, they're going to cease burning coal in 2028 and 2030 respectively. And so this ordinance transaction we're talking about is really our and the other co-owners' response to that eventuality. So I've got just a few prepared comments, and then I'll be
Please.
happy to answer any question that you guys have. So
If
I
you
do
would.
want to acknowledge Jason Carter. Some of you met. He's sitting back there. Some of you met before the meeting started. He is our attorney, and he worked tirelessly on these documents along with the other co-owners and their attorneys. So I'm thankful for their hard work and collaboration. Also, Bill Bethay and Aaron Brown on my staff also spent a lot of time working on this. So as you may know, we've not considered something like this in the city since 1979. So it's been 45, 46 years since we've had something like this under consideration. So it's an important matter. And for us, we really started working on this in 2021. So it's something that's been a very important project for us, and we've been spending a good bit of time focused on it. So just a little bit of background. In 1977, Jonesboro City Water and Light, yes, I said Jonesboro, I'll tell you why in just a minute, entered in agreements with APL, the old AP&L, and the Arkansas Electric Cooperatives to operate White Bluff and Independence coal electric plants. In 1979, the Arkansas Public Service Commission transferred 2% to the city of Conway, and Conway Corp manages those assets through our franchise and lease agreement. And one of the primary reasons we've had low-cost electricity is because of these plants. But as you know, they're going to be retired. We're going to retire White Bluff and Independence, and we need to provide some replacement generation at Independence. For many years, White Bluff and Independence have provided low-cost, reliable base-load electricity. Both facilities have been criticized for their pollutant emissions. And in 2021, a federal court approved a settlement agreement that requires White Bluff to cease burning coal in 2028 and ISIS by 2030. So we have some interconnection rights. They're a part of our ownership interest at both of these facilities. And those interconnection rights include the right to build and interconnect replacement generators to the grid at their current location. That's an extremely important point and one of the values of our ownership in these facilities. The process to interconnect a generator at a new site is time-consuming, it's expensive, and it's uncertain. So we prefer new development at these existing sites. We also prefer joint development of these baseload generators. One thing you might know about baseload generators is they are dispatchable any hour of the day, any season of the year. So they provide very reliable electricity for the grid. That's very important to keep the grid stable. And a partnership with other co-owners provides economies of scale when you're constructing a 1,600 megawatt facility. So those economies of scale are extremely important. So the recommendation for consideration in the ordinance, we have been in ongoing discussion with the Arkansas Electric Cooperatives, other municipal co-owners, and by the way, West Memphis approved this transaction last Friday. Jonesboro approved theirs today. And so that's what we're discussing. Our board approved it unanimously at our special board meeting earlier today, and that's what we're asking for you guys to consider tonight. We plan to consolidate our interconnection rights for this new baseload development at the Independent Steam Electric Station. Entergy would hold all the development rights at White Bluff, and the generators would be powered by natural gas. So I want to make that distinction. There are a number of agreements to be executed that you alluded to, Alderman Hawkins. But the Conway Corp Board of Directors unanimously approved this recommendation at a special board meeting earlier today, and I would recommend favorable consideration of an ordinance so we continue to move forward with this important project. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you guys might have.
Questions for Mr. Carroll? We've known this was coming for a while.
Yes, sir.
We have known
We have.
this.
We have.
And I appreciate you and your team's diligence in putting this together in conjunction with the other communities in Arkansas that participate.
I would make a motion to approve the ordinance.
And that's ordinance number
O-2534, and it has an emergency clause.
There's an emergency.
30.
Okay. And I would also make a motion for the emergency clause.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Spencer.
Do you have a second, Spencer? Thank you very much.
Actually, I think it was Mr. Ledbetter.
Somebody second it.
I'll second the emergency clause.
Any other questions or comments? Very good. Ms. Hurd?
Okay, this is O-2534. Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Hawks,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Spurgers,
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ms. Isby.
Yes.
In the emergency clause, Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Hawks,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Spurgers,
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ms. Isby.
Yes.
This is 8-0.
Mr. Carroll, is this the
Yes,
one
sir.
that had the change in the percentage?
Yes, sir.
Can
There
you,
was a
real
typo.
quickly, can you address that? please?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it said 1%. We have a 2% ownership interest. The original document had a typo. It said 1%,
Yes.
which coincidentally happens to be West Memphis's ownership percentage.
Okay.
And so they had 1% in both White Bluff and Independence. We had 2% in White Bluff and Independence. So I just wanted to make that typo correction was all.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to bring that to everybody's
Yeah.
attention to make sure that
Yeah.
we were all on that page. Very good. I think that's it.
Okay.
I hope.
All right, great.
I-
Well, thank you
but-
so much. This is important. We need to get these things up and going by 2030. So thank you for your support, and we're gonna keep working on it.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you for
Carroll.
riding this ship tonight. I appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to the community development portion of the meeting. And first of all, we have a ordinance to approve the amendment of the municipal code as it relates to EV parking, electric vehicles. Ms. Rogers, what can you tell us?
So tonight, we are asking for your approval to add the EV charging stations to the parking code. So Conway Corp added 2 parking stations on front for EV parking, and we would like to add that to the parking code so that we can use that only for EV parking.
Questions of Felicia?
Those are paid parking, Ms. Rogers?
Say it one more time.
Those are paid parking by whoever chooses to park there, correct?
They're paid.
Yeah, so if I choose to park my EV there, I'm going to pay to charge. The city's not paying for that.
No, the city's not paying. for that. No,
Correct. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so no money out to
No
us
money
here or
outside
anything
the
like
city,
that.
no.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O-2535.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance, O-2535. Any other discussion?
I think one thing to note is they have to be plugged in.
Mhm.
Yes.
You can't just be an
You just
electric
can't-
vehicle
no.
parking
You have to
there.
be charging, yes.
You have
It
to be
defines it,
charging
yes.
while you're there.
Any other questions? Ms. Hurd?
Mr. Hawks,
Yes.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Spurgers,
Aye.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes.
Aye.
Thank you.
8-0.
That passes 8-0. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Next item is an ordinance to approve the private club permit location for GFH Corporation doing business as Fabi's Mexican and Italian Restaurant at 1023 Front Street. And we have an ordinance to read for this item. It's ordinance O-2536. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this? Aye. If you'd state your name and address for the record.
Gracie Reyes and 1023 Front Street, Conway, Arkansas.
Very good, thank you. And you're obviously in favor. Very good.
We are.
Any questions? I don't think we have any questions. I'll take a motion for this.
Move.
Second.
Motion and second to approve this ordinance. Any other discussion?
Just a comment that part of what makes Conway unique is the ability to go have good Mexican and Italian food in the
At
same
the same
restaurant.
place.
Thanks for what you guys do.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Ms. Hurd?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Spurgers?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Thank you.
That passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item is an ordinance to approve annexation of 296.21 acres located approximately east of Lolly Road into the city of Conway. And, hello, Ms. Tucker. How are you today?
Hello, sir. If I can get set up here,
Oh, show and tell?
we're gonna try.
Okay,
We'll see if it works.
I like show and tell.
Looky there.
Six eight seven four two nine three.
Okay. Good evening, council. Items 3 and 4 are annexations. The first one is 296.21 acres located approximately east of Lally Road we're trying to annex it into the city of Conway in an I-3 zone. The parcel, you can see the blue where the city limits ends right now. And I believe that and the next one that's coming up will be this one. So these are the parcels that we are looking to annex. The Planning Commission passed this last night unanimously. There was one gentleman that spoke in opposition, the gentleman that lives right here. Other than that, they're asking for an I-3. And I'm open for questions, or Mr. Gates is here to speak to this.
Good. Any questions of Ms. Tucker or Jamie Gates, who's here with us? Any questions for either of those people?
Love to hear from Mr. Gates for a second.
Mr. Gates?
Mr. Gates, I was here for the Planning Commission meeting last night and noticed that it looked like there was the meeting after the meeting, and you had some discussion with some of the folks that were concerned about this.
Yes, very good conversation.
Can you give us the Cliff's Notes?
All kind of, if you live in that area and you see a development or change in the type of development or of any size, particularly one that's conspicuously large, you're going to have valid questions, concerns, anxiety, worries, all those things. And I think that we had a good visit, good introduction. I had the opportunity to speak to the two folks in the city, the two residents in the city ahead of the meeting, but had not met in person. And so we had good conversations on the phone and in person, traded information, and, have kind of pledged to keep the lines of communication open throughout this process, because there's going to be a number of milestones take place. There's a number of things. It really starts with annexation before we can talk in earnest about the different ordinances or whether this goes through the city's site plan review or any of those processes. So, certainly we're not even to the end of the beginning yet. I do have some image maps that may let you kind of lay eyes on the real lay of the land. There's some in back.
Sir.
I have. Mr. Gates?
Thank you, sir.
Sir?
Mr. Gates, I'll talk to you while you're walking here, but again, from the Planning Commission meeting last night and just comments that we've seen online, most of the concerns around, and anyone who's concerned about this should go back and watch the Planning Commission meeting last night where this was discussed, but most of the concern around this was fear of noise, et cetera, which you mentioned last night, that is governed by the ordinance that was passed a couple years ago. Will you speak to that briefly?
Yeah, and I'm going to, since we have multiple kind of things to vote on. I'll kind of give one synopsis of that because they all certainly are very closely related, and then just take the questions one at a time. The two issues kind of before the council that were adopted unanimously by the Planning Commission last night. The first one is annexation. We believe that annexation as a rule prior to development is a benefit to the eventual owner of the property, to city government, and to neighbors. That's because of the protections, processes, access to City of Conway Police and Fire, easy access to Conway Corporation utilities, planning staff, the protections that come with things like the ordinance. Those only exist if you're in the city, and so that's why we're in favor of annexing any property that we're developing. The alternative to annexation would mean that the land remain unincorporated, and then you offer no protection to the adjoining landowners, neighbors, but also no protection to the eventual owner. And that can be the public safety component, but it can also be future development components. When you have a future owner like this, a business or industry making a large investment, they do care about development being done well. Second, the rezoning issue, just a brief history lesson. Many of you were a part of this. Sorry, some of you are old enough to be part of history lessons. But really starting with the preparation of relocating the Conway Airport, the Conway Development Corporation was very active in real estate in Lolly Bottoms and began to acquire property, most of which ended up turning into our airport, some of which was retained and zoned as industrial property. That was in 2012. So that's when the two large parcels that are shown on the map that are outlined in black as I-3, that's when we had those rezoned. And that predates the houses in the area, predates the wastewater facility being opened and all of that. The parcels adjoining us are asking for that same zoning, and that will not only concurrently bring someone into the city with a contiguous zoning, but it'll eliminate an island of A1 to the south. And so we feel like it's an appropriate rezone. That A1 property, half of its perimeter is aligned with I-3 zoning, and the other half is unincorporated. Back to your original question, by eliminating the island of A1, we in essence create a larger sandbox. And so we have a larger contiguous I-3 parcel of development to site plan around. And so once we're in the city, once we've been annexed in and we begin to plan the development, then we'll be living under the data center ordinance, because that's a city ordinance. And when the operations that are in place need to accommodate the requirements of that ordinance, it's best to have a unitary I-3 parcel where it's like, okay, this is the point of origin for the noise. Let's move it north. Let's move it west. Let's do another reading from every boundary. I think the ordinance talks about doing baseline measurements from 8 points around the perimeter. So we just need consistent zoning so we can have total flexibility. As it sits right now, you can have heavy industrial uses on the north, and you can have them on the southwest, but not in the middle. And so that's why we want consistent zoning.
In the map that you handed out, Mr. Gates, you have a area of this shaded in pink.
Yes, sir. That's another good question that we got and that came up during conversations with homeowners in the area. One, just the size of the parcel itself. And, this is a really big site. And even by our historical development standards, it is a really big site. If you'll look at that shaded area on the map, you'll see almost 100 acres. I think it's 94 acres. That is floodway, so that property will not be developed. And then the land adjoining it is the land, kind of intuitively most squarely in the 100-year floodplain. Some of that land would be barely in the 100-year floodplain, but some is well within it. And so the economics of recovering that as developable property just doesn't make sense for that's where to build. So, why is the site so large? Two reasons. There's the desire from the company to have buffer and security. Some of that property is not developable, but it's also the parcels that were for sale. You know, any seller has a reasonable expectation of, I'm selling you this whole parcel. I'm not selling you just the highest and best and not this. But, so that's just to show that we're not talking about, you know, border to border development of this large annexation.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Any questions or anything else that you'd like to add?
I don't think so, unless, you know, clearly available for other questions.
Questions from anyone? Ms.
If there's any public, anybody else here who wants?
Even after public comment, if
Yeah.
we need to come back up.
All right. I will open it up for public comment if that's all right. We'll take comments. State your name and address, if you would, when you get here, and whether you're for it or against it, or,
Okay.
thank you very much.
I'm Alan Rice. I'm here for my son, Jeremy Rice. He's a gentleman that he was speaking about that was here last night. Jeremy was. He wrote out a piece and he read it last night. He asked if I'd come read it because he couldn't be here. I'm gonna go ahead and read it. This is pretty much for the zoning, which they've already done.
Sorry.
But he is opposed to it. And as I read it, you'll see why. He's got, good evening, Chairman, Planning Commissioners, and council members, which in this case, the mayor and council. My name is Jeremy Rice, and he lives at 1350 Lolly Road. His property directly touches the proposed data center site. And he was here to respectfully oppose the rezoning, which it did get rezoned, or I guess it has, and you guys are looking to annex it in. And he believes it threatens his family's quality of life and violates the city's own zoning principles. My primary concern is noise. My home is feet from the site, and research of Reddit forums, lawsuits, news, and videos with decibel readings shows data centers produce constant disruptive noise, especially from backup generators that are tested monthly or running unexpectedly at night due to power surges or insufficient grid power. And if no measures are taken, this noise will be unacceptable. He shared some links of what he sent in to the commissioning side. And despite the council members and large corporations' upfront assurance that their project will be different, these issues persist in other data centers across the United States, which is, you can pull it up online and hear the noises. He's not asking for anybody to break any NDAs or anything like that, but he respectfully requests that the city arrange visits to comparable facilities so my neighbors and I can assess the noise levels themselves. And once enough, any of you have done this yourselves. Okay. He's put in a bunch of ordinances here that he feels like you guys may not be in accordance with your own ordinances of the number O-23-55 has been completed, has been done. If not, how can we trust assurances from a Fortune 100 company over real world evidence? And how can we move forward with rezoning and planning steps without the basic information? Conway zoning code section 307.1 is clear. Industrial districts that, like 1 or I-3, are meant to protect residents from objectionable activities insulated by barriers. My home, directly touching this site, has no such barrier, which we're under the impression that they're supposed to build them. That's another question. We do have a picture of one that was built at Walnut Ridge, which is behind some friends of ours' property. And we'll show you the picture. It's pretty ugly. And they haven't started it up yet, so we don't know what the noise levels are going to be. And it's a small one. But that can be a place that we can go to listen, to bring back to you so you have an idea once they do start it up. Okay, and these noise levels adjacent residential areas. A data center noise would likely violate this, make I-3 rezoning inappropriate, and contrary to the code's intent. I'm also deeply concerned about a bald eagle's nest across the street, protected under federal law. Construction and operational noise could disrupt this nest, risk legal violation and harming our local ecosystem. Has the city studied this impact? If not, I urge you to do so before moving forward. I worry about rising utility costs, traffic, and resource strain. No studies on these impacts or health concerns have been shared. I ask for transparency, provide impact studies of conduct, or conduct them for this specific Conway site. Unproven and speculative economic benefits should not outweigh residents' right to peace. I'm open to compromise, but need hard data. Not promised to believe coexistence is possible at this time. Please deny this rezoning to protect our homes, our wildlife, and our community future. We simply do not have enough information concerning this project to make permanent decisions like this now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a
Thank you, Mr.
question.
Rice. Question?
Yes, your son, is that correct?
Yes, Jeremy?
Okay, when did he purchase the property?
2015.
2015, okay, thank
Now,
you.
I did notice that he said 2012 and that there weren't any houses there, but I'm pretty sure there's some people there that were there before 2012 and have some homes out there before 2012. And some of them are
What-
here.
Yeah, would you mind speaking into
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
microphone? That's okay.
I was
That's all right.
stating that,
No, that's
that
fine.
Mr. Gates had mentioned that
Sure.
most of those homes, or people out there, were there after 2012, and I'm not sure that's completely true. I know it is for them. They got built in 2015.
Yes, sir.
But there are some other homes, and they're here. They have concerns also. And I think they were there before 2012.
You show me on this map where your son's house is. Here's the sewer treatment plant. That's what I thought. Thank you.
David, was it pointed out that it's the house on the north side of that piece of property?
Yes, yes.
Next to the
Cat
yellow
corner
line?
from the sewer treatment plant,
From the
the edge of the
sewer
sewer
treatment
treatment
plant.
plant. Yeah, yeah.
Very good. Good. Mr. Gates, did you visit with Mr. Rice last night? You did?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, very good. I thought that you had, but I just wanted to make sure.
He visited with a lot of us out front.
Okay, very good. Any other questions of Mr. Rice at this point?
Thank you very
And
much.
their biggest concern, again, is not that they're against it. It's just that they don't want it thrown out there, and then it becomes something that all of us didn't really want.
Yes, sir.
And now we either got to figure out how we live with it, or everybody ends up in court trying to fight it.
Sure.
Mr. Rice, I was looking this up when you pointed it out, a data center in Walnut Ridge. I'm not able to find one on,
Yeah, I don't know if it's Walnut Ridge or Hoxie, but I'll get the address and I'll get the information from our friend.
okay,
No, it's, like I say, it's nothing compared to this one.
yeah. Is it a
It's just-
comparable site, Mr. Gates, or is it completely different?
And I didn't bring this up this time, but I will say that, there's qualitative differences in that is a crypto mining, operation. So there's qualitative differences in crypto mining data centers and, the data centers that are used to store and kind of levelize the consumer media, all of the data that we use every day. That has to do with the fact that crypto mining is kind of an opportunistic venture, and they're a little bit more volatile and dynamic in when they really need to ramp up and generate versus when they need to slow things down. The other issue at work there is because they're volatile, because they're usually frequently organized by smaller enterprises, they're cooled in ways that are less efficient and louder. It's not a secret. We covered this at the April 1st meeting, that we're working with Conway Corporation to use gray water to cool this facility. There's a lot of benefits to that, but the primary benefit to adjoining property owners is that it's a quieter system.
Would it be safe to say that this is a completely different type of facility than
This
the
is a
one
completely different
that's
kind
up
of
at
facility than the crypto, which is why those frequently are located in either unincorporated areas or areas that don't have the protections that y'all passed in 2022.
Very good, thank you.
And I wonder, is Ms. Tucker still here? Is she still
She
back
is.
there? And I'm talking, the 10,000 foot level, that once, if it's brought in and zoned, property zoned accordingly, is approved tonight, there are many more steps.
So many more.
And by being brought into the city, you brought up the ordinance 2355, which,
Yes.
Governs data centers, which would govern this. They would have to comply with what that says,
I gave
what
that to
they're
your son
building,
last night.
because they're in the city. They would
He's-
have to.
His main thing is he wants to make sure that he's representing himself in all these meetings so that
Sure.
if something
Yes,
later
sir.
had to,
Sure,
everybody knows that he's
Absolutely.
up front. And
right.
Very fair.
And we'd like for him to be,
Yeah.
to be here. We would.
And I watched the planning commission
Mhm.
last night, so
Yeah.
I heard him speak too, So, Ms. Tucker, just kind of if this is annexed in and the rezoning approved, and the company decides to go ahead, what's next?
Okay, so first and foremost, they will present us with a site plan and put it through our portal. It will go to, we'll have to make sure that it fits on the site just right and the setbacks are met. And then we go through drainage. Transportation looks at it, fire looks at it, and most assuredly, planning looks at it. And we are the ones who make sure that it's made out of the right kind of materials that fit within our zoning code. That, like I said, all the setbacks are met, the fencing is up to code. A lot of that is pretty wet out there, and so any walls that go around it would have to be engineered. It goes through an extensive site development review before they ever can pull the first permit to start building.
And one additional thing that, Mr. Gates, you can thumbs up. I don't know that you really need to speak to this again, but I think something that you told me or we discussed, I don't recall which, but one of the reasons for the size of the parcel is to be able to safely address noise, right? So to be able to locate further from, regardless of where they are on the parcel, they still have to comply with
2355.
to comply with 2355. Yeah, the mic went out on me. Anyways, they still have to comply with that regardless. But part of the reason for the size of the parcel is to be able to be more, to create more distance from Mr. Isis and other residential properties. We're getting a thumbs up from Mr. Gates.
Yes, he did. Mr. Gates gave a thumbs up.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
And along those same lines, as Mr. Gates alluded, this is a 320-ish acre sandbox with a lot of room, which you said, to put things in places where they can be less intrusive than others. And so what I'm sure you will look at, what I hope you look at, is in this, northwest area closer to these houses, obviously stuff not as close, but screening berms, what Conway Corp did with their property, putting in the earthen berms to hide what's behind it. So things like that, I think, would be very appropriate to look at when we do that. But again, that's stuff down the road.
Right.
Yeah, and just to set some reasonable expectations, and Ms. Tucker did line out all of the next steps in the right order, but to just set expectations on timing, there's a lot of design, and again, these are things we covered at the meeting 3 weeks ago. There's a lot of work to be done on the development side, private sector on design, engineering, planning, all of those things before we have, before they come to staff. And all this will be integrated into that. And the ordinance contemplates, baseline sound modeling,
Sure.
as an early step. But I did want to make sure people understood that there is not a off-the-shelf site plan ready to go in the coming weeks.
So you're saying we probably won't see this for a bit?
There'll be a lot of work taking place, kind of behind the scenes. But you, council, actually have a lot of conspicuous work related to other facets of
Sure.
the project.
Sure.
Ms. Tucker, I have a question.
Yes,
Just
sir.
kind of flipping this on its head. If we were not to rezone or to bring this into the city, could a data mining center go out there in an unregulated portion of the county?
I suppose so.
It's already
Legislation says that we
susceptible
don't
to
have a
that right
planning.
now, but if we bring it into the city, at least it's got some code to govern it. to
Exactly.
Make sure that people out there are protected.
Legislation just passed, we no longer have a planning boundary. So normally we would have, well, that's just for subdivisions. Never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. No.
But again, if it's not incorporated into the city,
Yeah.
there's no regulations and very easily become a data mining.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So, I have other comment when we get to the next piece of this, which is on the rezoning. But before we do, I'm curious if we annex in and for some reason this project doesn't proceed. And Ms. Tucker, I'm not sure if this question is for you or for other council members. Is there anything, any cost incurred or anything that we as the city would have to pay for everything that has to happen on that piece of property that is now in city limits if this project doesn't proceed? Basically, if the company bails for any reason, is the city on the hook for anything that we have to do out there at that point, or would any future development be on the hook for that?
It would be on future development. I would assume there's not going to be any structures on it or anything, so there's no fire response.
And
or-
you have fire and police.
Yeah, that's
But we're not,
Two basics.
no sanitation, no,
we're not signing up for, we're not writing a check tonight for anything that goes out there.
no, sir.
Mm,
No.
no. Very good,
This is all on CDC.
Great,
So.
thank you.
very good. Any other questions? We're dealing right now with just the annexation of
Any
this
other
property.
comments?
Any other comments? Anyone else in the? Mr. Salter would like to come and visit with us. Mr. Salter, if you'd state your name and address, please, sir.
Tony Salter, 27 Western Estates. If this project doesn't go through, can this be subdivided up into smaller parcels? I mean, they're doing a great big parcel, which gives everybody a lot of land room beside them. So if it doesn't go through, can they divide it up into 100-acre plots or something like that?
I don't know why that couldn't happen. Yeah, I would say it
And
could,
is there
but
any way we can make that doesn't happen?
It would require a replat. but
yeah,
yes,
you'd have to
be
be just like any other rezoning request. That's my opinion. Anything else? Anybody else want to talk about this affirmatively or negatively? Very good. We'll bring this back to council then. We have an ordinance, it's ordinance 02537 for the annexation of just over 296 acres of property out in the Lolly Bottoms area. We have a motion and second on this? I'm looking for a motion and second.
Motion to approve.
And a second. Any further discussion before we vote?
Mr.
Ms. Hart?
Grimes? Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Spurgers?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
And that passes 8-0. The next item, we're going to talk about annexation of 39.5 acres in this kind of same area. Ms. Tucker?
Same thing applies.
Very good. Same situation, basically, different piece of dirt.
I'd make a motion to approve on that as well.
I'll second. No.
We have a motion and second to approve this ordinance, and it's ordinance 02538. Any conversation for this? Ms. Hurd?
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Spurgers?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
That passes 8-0. The final item on this portion of the agenda is an ordinance to rezone property at the northeast corner of Lolly Road and Donald Ridge Road from A1 to I3. Ms. Tucker?
Yes, sir. The request is to rezone 160 acres, If you want to look at the map, it's this area right here. I mean, right there. I do believe. Anyway, so to the north, it has I-3, and now to the south and the east is also I-3, because you just did that. And then to the west is A1 and I-3. And they're asking for it to rezone from A1 to I-3.
Any questions for Ms. Tucker on this rezoning request?
Just not a, no.
Sure? Yeah. Speak
A
now,
comment for a later
forever
time.
hold your peace.
No questions for Ms. Tucker. We're good.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? That are actual questions rather than fake questions.
I think this was more the comment of this was one of the big learnings on the planning commission for me, that when I've been having conversations with people about this, that's confusing, is that people think that we're looking specifically to say, do we want a data center to go there? And that is not actually this question.
No.
This question refers specifically to land use, and that while we would love to wave our magic wands and pick what goes where, we as the city council and the planning commission last night are not allowed to do that. All we can say is this is appropriate land use of this parcel. Otherwise, we're signing up for a bunch of work for Mr. Finkenbinder when we get sued based on discriminating on what can get there.
Good.
Any questions for me?
Any other questions or comments? We have an ordinance for this. It's ordinance 02539. Take a motion.
Make a motion for the adoption.
Have a motion and a second for adopting this ordinance. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Hurd.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Spurgers,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Hawks,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes. That passes 8-0. Let's see, I need to move over one more page here. Hold on just a moment. Very good. That is all of the community development portion of the meeting. Public Service Committee now. First item is a resolution to approve entering into an agreement with Best Friends Animal Society for the animal welfare services. And Mr. Clausen, good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Yes, like you said, we're going to looking to enter into this agreement with the Best Friends Animal Society. They're a terrific nonprofit organization, and they have been working with David Mitchell for a while with sharing ideas and ways to increase life-saving efforts. So what this money would allow us to do would be to expand those life-saving efforts in the direction of cats. The grant name is the Conway Cat Life-Saving Sustainability Grant, and it would give us $20,000 to a major initiative in that we have right now is to be a no-kill shelter. Currently, we're classified as a no-kill shelter, and that's relatively new, and that's based on David Mitchell's leadership since he took that position out there. And I want to just put some light on him. Right now, we're at a 96.9% live outcome rate, which is terrific.
That's good.
So there has only been 2 cats euthanized this year, and they were both injured beyond help, and it was the humane thing to do. In the past, there has been with cats, there's a lot of cities that don't do anything with cats. They won't trap, they won't adopt out, they won't do anything with cats. So what we've always done is we've basically you trap them and you bring them in and you try to get them adopted, and if they don't get adopted, in the past there has not been a large focus on live outcomes. Now we have options of Gibson's Cat Cafe, we have PetSmart, Petco, and these groups will try to adopt cats out that way. And what this will allow us to do is engage in a program called TNVR. TNVR stands for Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, and Return. It's intended to control cat colonies. As some of you may know, there's some fairly large trailer parks around here that have cat colonies, estimates in 200-300 cats. It's uncontrolled. They mate, they have kittens, and every year there's a new batch. What this will do, it will allow us to trap these cats. We'll spay, neuter them, and vaccinate them so that they're healthy, and then we will return them to to where they were picked up from. And what that does is over time, it gradually controls the population. Normal complaints that we get are the yowling from either mating or fighting. That will be reduced significantly when they're spayed and neutered. If you have a cat that you let free roam and there's another cat that's been through this program, you can feel better because it has been vaccinated, it's healthier, it's not going to spread diseases. So this is a terrific program, and it's absolutely, I believe, the only way that we need to move forward in the future with regards to how we do cats. And this grant money will allow us to take that first step in a really big way.
And we are voting to accept the money. This isn't to let you apply. As long as we say yes, this moves forward.
Thanks to Robbie and David, this is to receive this money, and so we can start using it.
Mr. Mitchell, thank you for your work here. Appreciate it. Appreciate the work you guys are
Absolutely.
doing out there.
Fantastic.
Can I ask one question? Just, so you're gonna trap the cats and then perform whatever surgeries and then release them back where you caught them?
Mhm.
That's the process.
That's correct. So when there's a thing called a vacuum effect, if you just keep taking cats out and euthanize them or whatever you do, there's resources that are still there. A lot of times, especially in trailer parks, there are caretakers that aren't actually owners, but they feed, or there's trash sources or whatever. And when you remove one, there's that vacuum effect. If those resources are still there, animals will move in. And as we're getting ready, we're kind of in kitten season now with spring, and there's cats out there right now that are starting to have kittens. And if they'd already been through the program, these kittens wouldn't happen. And it's like I said, it's a very humane, it's a very ethical way, and it's the way that we want to take Conway Animal Services into the future. We feel like it's the right way to do it.
Very good.
Your mom will be so proud.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, she would. Yes, she would.
I'll make a motion for the adoption of the resolution. I have it as R 2511.
Second?
Thank
We have a
you.
motion and a second to approve Resolution R 2511, entering into this agreement with Best Friends Animal Society. And you know I have a weak place in my heart for kitties.
I know you do. Yes, sir.
I'm really glad to see this.
They'll be happy to adopt a cat to you, I'm sure.
I have several.
Yes, yes, he does.
I have several from.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
any other discussion? All in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Count me in the aye column. And final item here this evening is an ordinance to approve repealing ordinance 02506, regulating natural landscaping for the Public Works Department. And Spencer, I think you might want to talk about this one as well.
Yes, sir. I'm back up to bat on this. I've come here today to, in a lot of ways, put the intent of this ordinance on record. I think that would help to clear up some maybe misconceptions or misunderstandings. Before I do that, I think, Drew, would you like to kind of go into what led us here?
Sure, yeah. And first, thank you to Mr. Clausen, to whoever else worked on this. I'm very much so in favor of a natural landscaping ordinance. I feel like, as the new kid, don't know a lot, right? But I feel like I would have liked to have seen a different process here where there's an opportunity for public input. I will certainly support what comes back forward on this after we have opportunity for public input from both our master gardeners, from folks at the extension office, et cetera, et cetera. So not against the intent here, but I do think there were some fair questions about what enforcement would look like and some room for clarification on some of the definition here that is far above my pay grade, but want to give the opportunity for the people that have that knowledge.
Okay. First off, this was an incredible step forward in deregulation. It has been touted on Facebook as regulation, and there was this accusation of that we're trying to make Conway an HOA, and that was absolutely not the case. When we were putting this together, that was the complete opposite of what we were trying to do. We actually thought that we would have maybe some kickback and some questions from HOA presidents, and I haven't received any from that direction. I don't know what complaints or concerns that y'all have received, but we're essentially allowing citizens who wish to participate in this program that they could let 35% of their yard, they could do basically whatever they wanted to with it. And that's a
that is deregulation. We have currently our ordinance 3.2.4 is grass and weeds, and in all zoning areas currently, it's not to exceed 8 inches, okay? And that describes rank vegetation and other things. So there's a section that's B, and B allows that areas specifically designated or recognized by the city as the city, the state, the United States, wetlands, open spaces, natural or wildflower areas, or other designated preservation areas. This ordinance, our intent in writing this was to create a path to where we could recognize areas as a natural wildflower area, okay? Because right now, you can't, you cannot be in total compliance with the ordinance when you let your yard go. And some people wish to do that because they believe in green spaces, biodiversity. There's all sorts of reasons why people want to do that, to encourage pollinators and other things like that. And when we were writing this, we were trying to keep that in mind. We created an easy path forward to recognize these areas. So there was no rules within the borders. This was, so the lack of knowledge or experience with plants or a lack of funds wouldn't be a barrier to participating. This was not designed for a master gardener, even though they can be great partners in somebody that maybe wants to become one. We were very concerned about expense, and we were very concerned about letting people who wanted to participate in this program to be able to do it, regardless of where their starting point was. If for some reason you wanted to just throw wildflower seeds out there and just see what happened in your designated area, and that grass got chest deep, and that's how you like to have your backyard and watch the bees or the bugs or whatever it was, you could do that. If you had a specific need where you wanted to encourage monarch butterflies to enter your yard and to thrive, then you might want to do Google research or consider master gardeners to point you in that direction, and that would have been wonderful. But our intent with this was to create basically a blank canvas and allow you to do whatever you wanted to in that blank canvas. The other thing is to increase green space and biodiversity lost from years of building. You know, I think that y'all probably all over the years talked about how fast Conway's grown, how big it's grown. Well, when we bulldoze forests, fields, what have you, there's a lot of life there that has to relocate. It kind of becomes, in some ways, a desert. But with these locations and these green spaces, it would encourage fauna connectivity, which is bugs and insects and lizards and things like that. With enough green spaces, they can kind of thrive again. It helps with nutrition to the soil. It helps with water problems. So, in flood control, that has a part of that, because allowing this growth would allow for would help with drainage. So that was a consideration that we had when we developed this ordinance. So we wrote it from the perspective of a neighbor who might not share in the vision of a greener Conway. So I have several years in code enforcement experience, and I understand that sometimes there'll be an ordinance that'll come forward and there's not really a way to enforce it. It wasn't written from that perspective, and it's actually can be very difficult to enforce some ordinances. So we thought, well, what about the neighbor who doesn't want this? So we put a framework on it, 25% in your backyard, 10% in your front yard. We consulted with the fire department, the fire marshals, and part of the fire code is combustible materials with uncontrolled growth, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't allowing somebody to put something in place that would be dangerous. If it were to catch fire from a barbecue grill, because this will be in a backyard, we wanted to look at how the planning did offsets for accessory structures and such. So we wanted to say, well, we can keep it 5 feet off of a fence. That way it won't grow over, drop leaves, seeds, encroach over into your neighbor's property or tear up the fence. So that was a major consideration that we had when putting this together. The other thing was we wanted to have a border on it, and a border being timbers or rocks or concrete or metal edging, something that would kind of keep it from expanding, because it was already a fairly large amount of property that we were letting you do whatever you wanted to with. And the border would also signify maybe to a neighbor that, I don't like it, but at least they're keeping it in an area,
So that was one of the things that we really were focused on, is how would we respond to the person who didn't like it? So citizen-driven was one of the main things that we wanted to have this ordinance represent. Is this is not forcing on anybody. This was, if you wanted to do it, you can do it. We'll work it out. There's just a minor application. There is a $35 fee, and that went to the tree board because we wanted to encourage additional green spaces. This money is not to go to our coffers. This was strictly a way that we could have a little bit of income stream for the tree board to encourage more green spaces. Public Works has a great relationship with the tree board. We built their Memorial Plaza, and we maintain the memorial trees down Prince Street. That's important to physical plant and Public Works, and we thought this would be a great way to give them additional income stream. So these are just a few of our intentions when we put this ordinance together. You know, I've had people say to me that they can't believe that Conway passed such a environmentally friendly ordinance. And I agree. I think it's fantastic. I think that the misconception of this is for some reason additional regulation is a bad faith argument. Or thought. That's not what this is at all. In fact, like I said, it's just the opposite. And it was important to us when we were drafting this ordinance and when we were putting it together that anybody in the city that wants to participate can do it. And whatever they wanted to do with that space, and even if it was just to let the grass grow, that would be allowed, as we would designate it as a natural area, and we'd recognize it. I really feel like the people that worked hard on it had the citizens' best interest in mind, that this would be something that could be very exciting to all citizens and go for a greener Conway. So I know this is the last thing tonight, and I'm sorry, but I did really want to lay out a few things that were a misconception. One other thing that I want to make sure that's understood is this has nothing to do with existing flower beds. Flower beds are maintained. This is unmaintained. If you already have flower beds and you want to add more flower beds, that was always up for grabs. That'd be fantastic. You know, when we talk about that we let anybody do whatever they want to in this border, we don't control what you plant in your flower bed. If you want to plant honeysuckle or poison ivy or whatever, it's flower bed. That's what people get to do. And they maintain that. This percentage has no effect either way on how much or how little flower beds you may currently have. So I have stood up here tonight and tried to defend in a lot of ways some misinformation that had been out there. I do wish that I'd had a chance to address the public on this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do that now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Clausen?
Just overall, this natural landscaping ordinance is a good deal, as you described very well. I don't necessarily see the need to repeal it and start over. It seems to me the whole thing is about education. Education after the fact is what this amounted to, and you're talking about education before the fact. Either way, it's about educating what is allowed and what is not allowed. It is deregulation. You explained a lot of it very well right there, but, you know, whatever.
There might be some fine tuning that needs to be done. And I'm okay with repealing this and starting over with a new set of guardrails, or I'm okay as well with getting rid of this one and starting brand new. So, or if we just want to update this current one.
I think we, you know, the thing that I feel like we missed here was just the opportunity for public input, and that, you know, I can't speak for the rest of us, but I don't know enough about this to speak with expertise.
To change it tonight.
Exactly. And so, you know, I told the mayor previously that I was more comfortable with repealing and going back to public input on this. You know, if modification is the route that we take to that, I'm not necessarily opposed. And I think another route to this would have just been for us to take public comment the night that we approved it, right? But we missed that. So,
And I'm okay with doing away with this one and starting anew with public input. I'm seeing some heads nod, but I'm also seeing some people that have questions. Anybody want to talk?
I think I agree. Go ahead and repeal this one and then come up with a plan for some
Okay.
coordinated public input. Make sure all the people are at the table, and then develop something.
and Mr. Clausen, if you need a champion for that when the time comes and you need, help corralling or anything there, say the word. Because again, I'm in support of this, and I understand the intent is deregulation. Anytime we add something that doesn't exist as an ordinance that has to be complied to, it doesn't feel like deregulation. So I feel like we need to give people a chance to be heard, to share their opinion. I believe your intent 100%. And again, I'm going to be supportive of this when it comes back. I just think we owe it for some public input and some expertise added there. And I appreciate the effort that you've put into it, knowing that the intent was good.
Yeah, well, if that's what the vote is tonight, then that's what the vote is tonight. I'll respect that. And, of course, there was never any intention to leave the public out of it. Like I said, we did talk to a lot of people that we thought we were kind of doing a good job of getting a picture of what we thought would be the most receptive, in the city. I definitely think Ryan had a really good point in a meeting yesterday, Ryan with planning, that, I would think that if we added an administrative waiver onto the existing ordinance, if it stays, so that if there are people that have concerns because of growth they already have, they want to keep, and they want to try to fit in with this too and be in compliance, I would certainly be for creating a way for people who have already done some of this work. The goal is not to punish people who were ahead of the city on creating natural landscapes. So, like I said, if it stays, we did a lot of excellent work on this, and I'm proud of the people that worked with me on it. But if the decision is to repeal it, then I don't know at what point it will come back. I certainly think it's necessary and it's needed.
Sure.
Would you be adverse to some fine tuning and maybe some additions to the current one?
I think that the current one is, they're certainly fine tuning. I would love public input to fine tune it. I think Drew is correct that public input is important in some of these decisions. And if there was an opportunity, I know that several times there's conversations after it was passed about having a public meeting to try to kind of clean up some of the misinformation that was out there. And, if we had a public meeting and somebody had some really good ideas that we needed to consider, 100%. I think that it would be the right thing to do to bring it back and amend the current ordinance. I think that would be fantastic. Since this passed, we've not issued any certificates. We've withheld that. We've not been trying to do anything. We have had some people call, and unfortunately, we decided that we were going to kind of wait until this public meeting, which unfortunately never happened. But if the vote was to not repeal it, and we want to look at amending it through a public meeting, I absolutely would love to hear what people had to say and take some great considerations into amending what exists. But it's the vote is up to you. But I would certainly be willing to do that.
And I think you're saying the same thing two different ways. If we repeal it, we're going to take what we got and tweak it.
Right.
If we don't repeal it, we're going to take what we have and tweak it.
Tweak it.
So,
Right.
either way.
I think
Because we're not enforcing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's my.
If you repeal it, it's gone, and it's got to come. But
But you're going to start with the same base. You're going to start from scratch. You're going to start with that same base
Right.
and tweak it.
With the same base and some kind of public input meeting. Yes, is what we've talked about. So I think the only reason that I would favor repealing is that right now all we have is our word saying that we're not issuing permits and enforcing it. And I think that probably makes some people uncomfortable. I don't think you have bad intent there. I just think if we're going to look at the most transparent way we can do that, that's what feels right to me. Ms. Rogers, can you speak to when, I know the mayor said that we talked about public input, meeting with Krista at the extension office. Can you speak to any kind of timeline there or when we might be able to get public input together on this?
Yeah, so I think our preference is to maybe take a relook at the ordinance. The ordinance is good the way it is, but I think if we repeal it, we can get some additional information, not only from the public, but from Ms. Krista. And I think we don't want to rush it, so I won't put a timeline on it, because I think that we really do want to look at it and make sure we understand exactly how we want to lay out natural landscaping for the city.
And the intent is not for this to go away and not come back.
This is not to go away and not come back, but I think in this form, I think our preference is to repeal it and then start over with, with some assistance from Krista and from the master gardeners in the public comment period.
Well, and I would think too, if we repeal it, we're not just scraping it off and throwing it away. We're gonna build from that or use portions of that to come up with a better solution. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I was involved in this early on and all the way through, and a lot of good people, and I feel confident if that's what we do, then whatever and whenever it comes back with public input, it will be just fundamentally better than this.
Very good. Any other questions? Do we have a motion for the ordinance?
Based on that, and what's the number, Ms. Hurd?
02540.
2540. So, and there is an emergency clause? An emergency to stop enforcing what we're not doing?
It's
But we
not
could
being
enforce
enforced.
Yeah.
It's not.
But we're not.
The only thing
Yeah.
that gets enforced now
Yeah.
is our normal, the 3.2.4, grass and weeds shall not exceed
Yeah.
8 inches in all zoning areas.
Yeah, I think the only reason that I would be, that I think emergency clause is necessary here is because we passed it with one anyway. So all that to say, I would make a motion to repeal I would make a motion in favor of 02540, which repeals 02506, and also for the emergency clause, since that's what we did the first time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to repeal 02506 and to rework that with framework and the bones of the first one to be used extensively in the second one, and some fine tuning. Any other comments? Ms. Hurd?
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Mr. Spurgers?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
No.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
In the emergency clause, Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Mr. Spurgers?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
No.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
That passed 7-1, and the emergency clause passes 7-1. So that motion or that ordinance is repealed, and we'll begin working on that one ASAP. So there we go. That is all of the items I have on the agenda. Does anybody else have anything else? Seeing nothing, I'll take a motion
moved.
to dismiss. We are adjourned. Thank you for joining.